Congress has already been hard at work this morning. Republicans are inching their way to passing what President Donald Trump calls his big, beautiful bill.
Doug Luzader joins us now on their progress this morning from Capitol Hill. And Doug, a few questions for you this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's start out with, for people who aren't aware what's in this spending bill, kind of give us the highlights of what it does include.
Well, I mean, this is a comprehensive piece of legislation. I guess we would start on the tax side of this. This continues the tax cuts that Trump ushered in back in 2017. Those were set to expire at the end of the year, so this would continue those. It would also increase the child tax credit for a period of time. On the spending side of this, this does seek to reduce the amount of money spent on Medicaid without necessarily scaling back benefits for those who continue to qualify. So what we keep hearing is waste, fraud, and abuse, putting in new work requirements as far as Medicaid is concerned. There is a provision in there, just off the top of my head, there is a provision in there to pay for the president's new Golden Dome missile defense system. That's part of it. One of the real unresolved issues, maybe, is what to do about state and local tax deductibility, the so-called SALT, the SALT issue. Now, there were some signs that perhaps they had reached an agreement on what to do as far as that's concerned. That's been a real sticking point among Republicans. But there are a lot of, different aspects to this bill. It really does touch on a number of things, but primarily this has to do with continuing the president's tax cuts from 2017.
We know Democrats obviously very much against this, but there are some still Republicans who are not sold on this. We were looking at video. The president was there on Capitol Hill trying to convince maybe some of the holdouts, if you will. What is the sticking point for some of these Republicans who are still not a yes vote?
Well, it depends on the Republican. There are some conservative Republicans who think this doesn't do enough in terms of deficit reduction, fiscal hawks. On the other hand, there are moderate Republicans who are concerned about some of the changes in Medicaid, for instance. So, when you do some things to placate one end of that spectrum, you anger people on the other, and that's been the real issue as far as finding the balance point here. And the other thing has to do with what we just talked about, the SALT deduction, state and local taxes. There are a number of Republicans from high tax states, New York, California, where this is really an important issue.
You can throw Minnesota in there probably too. What do you expect lawmakers to talk about today, the focus today?
Well, they've been meeting since 1 o'clock this morning in the Rules Committee. This is just kind of, teeing up the actual vote on the bill today. Much of the debate is happening behind the scenes as far as Republicans to get everyone on board. Just given the numbers in the House, they just cannot afford many defections on the Republican side, maybe 3. So all of a sudden, every single Republican has a lot of sway in this debate.
Yeah, we know they want to get it done, get that vote in before the holiday weekend, too. All right, Doug, thank you. We appreciate the insight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Fox and Friends First here on a Monday morning. I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Carly Shimkus. Lawmakers are now one step closer to delivering on President Trump's agenda after the House Budget Committee advanced the mega bill late last night in a very narrow vote.
Madeline Rivera live in Washington with the latest. Hey, Maddie.
Good morning, Carly and Todd. This is a victory for now for the supporters of the big, beautiful bill, allowing the legislation to head to the Rules Committee later this week. But some GOP hardliners indicate the bill is still going to need changes before it clears the House. The House Budget Committee's vote to advance the bill is a turnaround after 4 GOP hardliners rejected it on Friday. Some of their concerns included Medicaid work requirements and spending. House Speaker Mike Johnson said there were a lot of conversations over the weekend to try and address these issues. The final tally overnight was 17-16, with the holdouts voting present, which is essentially a refusal to take sides. It lets the bill move forward.
Look, all 11 of our committees have wrapped up their work, and they spent less and saved more than even we projected initially. You're going to have historic savings for the American people, historic tax relief for American workers, historic investments in border security, at the same time that we're restoring American energy dominance.
As for what type of assurances these holdouts got, they include speeding up the timeline for those Medicaid work requirements and reducing some of the green energy tax subsidies under the Biden administration. But the committee chair says there were no actual changes to the bill before the vote.
I didn't make any commitments other than the commitment to call another vote to give them the opportunity to allow this to move to the next phase in the process. I can tell you there were no changes. We voted on the same roll-up of all the reconciliation bills from the respective committees that we considered on Friday with no changes on it.
Representative Ralph Norman, one of the fiscal hawks, says they got assurances in writing. Representative Chip Roy warning on X the bill still does not meet the moment. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will hold a press briefing at 9 a.m. Eastern Time today. We will see what she has to say about this vote. Carly and Todd.
And for those of you who have a calendar in front of you, you well know that Memorial Day deadline.
So, I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Elon Musk has criticized the centerpiece of President Donald Trump's legislative agenda in a significant fracture in their partnership. Musk said he's disappointed in what the president calls his big, beautiful bill. The legislation includes a mix of tax cuts and enhanced immigration enforcement. Republicans recently pushed the legislation through the House and are debating it in the Senate.
The ayes have it. The motion's agreed to. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is ordered.
While speaking to CBS, Musk described it as a massive spending bill that increases the federal deficit and undermines the work of his Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE. Musk's comments come as he steps back from his government work, rededicating himself to his companies Tesla and SpaceX. He also said last week that he planned to do a lot less political spending. The tech billionaire had previously been enthusiastic about the opportunity to reshape Washington. He wore campaign hats in the White House, held his own campaign rallies, and talked about excessive spending as an existential crisis. Trump returned the favor, once turning the White House driveway into a makeshift Tesla showroom when sales were declining. When asked on Wednesday about Musk's disappointment, the U.S. president said he needed to secure a lot of support and was thrilled by some aspects of the bill.
Elon Musk is raising concerns about President Trump's sweeping tax and spending cuts package, saying that he believes it would raise the U.S. budget deficit and undercut efforts by DOGE.
So these comments come as Musk is taking a step back from his high-profile government work, and Julia Benbrook has more.
Elon Musk, who is, of course, a big Trump donor and has been by the president's side as a special government employee for the first few months of the term, is criticizing the president's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. Musk has notably played a leading role in the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, with the stated goal of identifying and eliminating, quote, waste, fraud, and abuse within the federal government. The tech billionaire is criticizing Trump's massive agenda bill, which the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates would add $3.8 trillion to the deficit, saying he believes it undermines DOGE's recent efforts.
So, I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
After intense negotiations, the House narrowly passed Trump's agenda bill last week. Now all eyes are on the Senate, where it faces challenges and potential changes. Republicans have set a goal of getting the bill to the president's desk for a signature by the 4th of July. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
We turn now to a Senate update set to take up President Trump's massive spending bill this week, which is key to his agenda. But some Republican senators say they can't support the bill, which narrowly passed in the House. Our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, is at the White House for us. Good morning, Rachel.
Hey, Rebecca, good morning to you. And you're right, this bill barely passed the House, and it will certainly face challenges in the Senate, where a handful of Republicans are already warning about the level of spending. Others back home at town halls confronted about the cuts. This morning, with pressure mounting to pass President Trump's signature spending bill, a handful of Republican senators signaling they are not on board.
I just can't support something that actually increases the deficit, and that is what's going to happen right now as the bill's currently written.
I don't want to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion.
Well, the bill promises to slash federal spending by $1.5 trillion. By some estimates, it would add $3.8 trillion to the national deficit over the next 10 years, with cuts to food assistance and Medicaid. More than 8 million Americans projected to lose coverage, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. At town halls, Republicans confronted about those cuts. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst heckled and booed.
They are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not... Well, we all are going to die. So, for heaven's sakes.
After her response drew outrage, Ernst doubling down, posting this video standing near a cemetery.
I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth.
The legislation pushed through the House by Republicans extends the 2017 Trump-era tax cuts, sets aside nearly $50 billion to resume construction on the border wall, and pushes work requirements for Medicaid.
They're cutting Medicaid, throwing 15 million people off their health care in order to fund a tax cut for the super wealthy and for corporations. That is just fundamentally immoral. It's immoral and it's unethical.
The administration defending the package.
This bill will preserve and protect the programs, the social safety net, but it will make it much more common sense.
So Senate Majority Leader John Thune is now racing to get this done by a July 4th deadline. He can only afford to lose 3 Republicans, guys.
And Rachel, late Friday, the president also announced new tariffs set to hit this week.
Yeah, the president announced he's now doubling tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, raising them from 25% to 50%. This is starting on Wednesday. The European Commission blasting this move, saying that it only adds to the uncertainty, that it undermines ongoing negotiations, and that they're prepared to respond with countermeasures. And it comes as these tariffs continue to be challenged in court. But, George, I will tell you, I've talked to senior administration officials here at the White House. They have made it absolutely clear that these tariffs are staying in place, and they're willing to fight this all the way to the Supreme Court, George.
We have seen, though, a lot of back and forth on it, Rachel. Thank you. And this back and forth really confusing for American consumers.
It is. And you see the stock market responding to it. When tariffs are on, you see stocks go lower. When tariffs are coming off, you see them go higher.
President Trump continues to try and pass his big, beautiful bill. Now that it passed the House, it has to pass the Senate. There are plenty of Republican holdouts, though. And we want to go live to Scripps News national correspondent Joe St. George. Joe, President Trump is speaking with some of those holdouts, so how are those talks going?
Under a reminder, I think, right now, we're going to be talking a lot about the big, beautiful bill, lobbying from President Trump, the debate in the Senate all June long. I mean, this is crunch time now for the President Trump's legislative agenda, which may be his legislative legacy. I mean, this is a 1,000-page bill. I don't expect many more opportunities, even though he's only halfway through his first year in his second term. There's just not going to be many opportunities to pass legislation like this. So this is a pivotal moment. And President Trump and the White House know they have a bit of a problem right now, and that is the House passed its version of the big, beautiful bill, but a number of Senate Republicans have issues with it. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, he has issues with the cost of this thing. He's saying, wait a minute, weren't we elected to cut the deficit? And nonpartisan independent watchdog groups are saying this will increase the deficit to the tune of trillions of dollars over the next decade. So he has to address that concern. He also has some Republican senators worried about Medicaid changes. Senator Josh Hawley, a reliable conservative vote, he's raised concern over rural hospitals and how they could close as a direct result of the piece of legislation in the House. President Trump spoke to him about that in the last 24 hours. So the pedal to the metal, the push is on. As far as what's next here, Republican leadership in the Senate still want to get this vote before the July 4th holiday. They're going to implement some changes here, so we could get text of those changes sometime this week. Part of our job as journalists will be to explain what those changes are so you know how it could impact your pocketbook. Remember, Civics 101 here. Anything the Senate does, any change the Senate does, it kicks the bill back to the House for another round of voting. So this thing is going to intensify throughout the month of June, but we're committed to covering every angle of it because it's so big, it impacts all of our wallets for sure.
It's an honor to be with Elon, who's my friend, and he's done a fantastic job.
There were some who said the relationship wouldn't last 5 minutes. Others who suspected he'd never leave the trappings of power. Neither was right.
But Elon's service to America has been without comparison in modern history.
In the end, the unlikely alliance with far-reaching implications came to an end just as his 130-day limit was up.
My time as a special government employee necessarily had to end. It was a limited time thing.
And the news conference, to the extent that it was one, was a moment for the two men to trumpet Musk's success.
Elon has worked tirelessly helping lead the most sweeping and consequential government reform program in generations. Take over, Elon, just take over.
But while there is no question that in his own style he upended the workings of federal government, slashing thousands of jobs, shutting whole departments, changing America's global footprint.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
And apparently enjoying it as he did.
Chainsaw!
The savings, well, they haven't quite matched the promise.
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah! In the end, the savings to date, notwithstanding the massive job losses, are a fraction of what he had hoped. But it will take time, he says.
The Doge influence will only grow stronger. I'd liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government, and I'm confident that over time we'll see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in $1 trillion of waste and fraud reduction. Thank you.
The parting gift from president to the world's richest man, a key. It wasn't clear why. Maybe a key to the White House, because he'll be back and forth, we're told.
I expect to continue to provide advice whenever the president would like advice.
I hope so.
Far from being a news conference, just a few media were allowed in, and with the most trivial of questions.
Do you have any world leader to world leader marital advice?
We did eventually find out why the black eye.
Yeah, no, I was just horsing around with little X, and I said, go ahead, punch me in the face, and he did. Turns out even a 5-year-old punching you in the face actually does.
That was X that did?
Yeah.
There was no probing on the New York Times reporting of Musk's alleged extensive drug use during the campaign.
That New York Times? Let's move on.
There is little doubt about the need to cut American bureaucracy or cut the debt, but it was his sledgehammer methods. His style was a distraction from the substance of Trump's sweeping policy changes. But the flamboyant wingman has gone. The president is flying solo now. Mark Stone, Sky News in Washington.
Trump is going to be when he finds out that Elon Musk said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it."
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.